Segment 3, Golden Back Live. Justin Lovett, who has he'll fire you up when you're here in terms of your game is training a Purdue football team, but it has to be a lot about keeping guys motivated, keeping them fired up to get to work hard.
Yes, it does. You can't do it artificially. You have to be organic, and so whatever message that you're pushing has to be relatable, or they're not going to hunt for you.
Yeah, and that is have you noticed in all your years of doing this, I think I may have asked you this last time, but kids, you got to make it work so that they'll do the job too. I mean, have they changed much? Have you noticed much of a change over the last 5 or 10 years, or is it a lot of the same pedigree coming in?
I think they've changed a little bit. It's a little bit you have to be quicker in and out of what you're trying to accomplish with regards to what you're teaching and what you're selling. If you try to choreograph it and plan it out that I'm going to say this at this stage of the workout, it doesn't come off, and the kids see through a little faster. They're more perceptive when it comes to what's he really saying, what's he really meaning, why is he saying that, so they understand the why a little bit more, and it's a little quicker turnaround from when you lay out a message to when you have to really move on and make it pay.
Yeah. I mean, some people don't realize, the value and the importance of strength and conditioning, the position that you're in. I mean, you really are the eyes and the ears of that team, because the contact that you can have with the players on a year-round basis with the coaching staff, of course, can't. So how often are you in touch with Jeff Brom and the assistant coaches, giving them updates, letting them know, hey, this guy's doing good, this guy needs a little bit of motivation? Yeah,
I'll tell you, when the coaches are on the road, I do coordinate with the assistant coaches quite a bit, but with Coach Brom, it's nightly. There's nightly phone calls. He's engaged with every player on the roster. If you're a Rondell Moore, or if you're a walk-on that just got here, if you're 3 pounds off from your body weight goal, you trend in the wrong direction. If you got stapled on the bench, he wants to know about it. And if you say, "Oh, I got it, I'll take care of it," that's not good for Jeff Brom. He needs to know everything that's going on within the program, from a message standpoint to application standpoint, and then to a production standpoint. He needs to know, and he wants to know what he's getting in the spring before they just show up for the first day of spring practice.
How much of it is an indicator, though, when they are trending in a different direction, either up or down? I mean, is it easy correlation to what you might see on the field? Is it an early sign of trouble or getting better? Or, I mean, how much of that really plays out?
In my experience, bad winters equal bad springs, and if you start off with a bad winter first couple weeks, you aren't coming in hot. You're tired, lethargic. Your mind's elsewhere. You can turn it around, but you need some good momentum to be strung along before you get to spring practice to get these coaches excited about you, because they do get their eyes and hands on you during mat drills. So if you're not performing for me, you're probably not going to be set up to perform and accelerate during mat drills, and that's a bad combination going into spring. So guys have really reinvented themselves in a winter program, coming off maybe the end of a bowl preparation season where they didn't trend upward like they wanted to. They struggled a little bit. They get a couple weeks off. They reinvent themselves, and the coaches fall in love with them all over again. On that flip side, though, if they start to struggle in the winter and they can't turn around, well, then the coaches fall in love with somebody else that can play. And that's a big indicator. It really is.
Yeah. Everybody wants to get bigger. Everybody wants to get faster. How do you marriage those two things? Again, you can't get overly big and compromise your speed and quickness. You don't want to lose a lot of size to get fast. I mean, how do you try to combine those two things so you have the maximum player as far as the size goes and the speed goes?
You have to integrate what you're doing on the field with the weight room. So if you're chasing acceleration, then you're chasing accelerative strength in the weight room. If you're chasing top end speed on the field, then you're chasing more bar speed and velocity in the weight room. So you have to coordinate and integrate your field work with what you're doing under the bar. And it's not okay just to do, hey, we're going to do sets of 10 and we're going to burn out, but yet you're talking about get off and acceleration on the field. Those are two opposite ends of the spectrum. You need a little bit of mass, like you said, and you can build it within your weight program at the back end as a finisher. to a certain extent, but you can't do it in a way that compromises your field work. So you have to time up when you do your field work. Is it before the lift? Is it after the lift? And if it's after the lift, you have to be careful, and you have to structure your days so that each day is tagged with another day. You can build momentum on the previous day. You can coach the same cues that you've had on Tuesday, use them and apply them on Wednesday, so then maybe they can rep them and get some production out of them on Thursday. So it's really everything's tied together, and you can't have separate entities circling around, and it becomes a word salad of what what you need. This guy needs this guy needs this, and you really can't do too much without coordinating everything together.
In your skill set, the football performance complex is mind-boggling, just the technology that sits in that weight room. I mean, and I can't understand one zillionth of it. How much of that was a learning curve for you, and then has that changed your, you're a strength coach, you're about moving weight and building fitness, et cetera, but you've also got to understand the technology. How much of that has been a challenge, and has it changed your field a lot, just because you can measure everything now?
Now you can measure everything. So previously, with Coach Braun, we've always been about, it doesn't matter the weight that you lift. It has to matter how fast and explosively and clean you can lift that weight. So we've never been a big, slow squat or slow bench program to put numbers on the wall. But to answer your question, what has changed is now that instead of using a coach to say that wasn't fast enough, you actually have data. You can show the kid that it wasn't fast enough. You can turn around the camera on his set and say rep 2 and 3 were fast enough, but rep 4 was not, and here's why. And you can show them instant feedback videos. So it has changed our game in the sense that now there's more buy-in with the kids. We're not just saying you're slow just to artificially motivate you. We're showing you why you're slow. We're making corrections on the fly. We're moving faster through progressions. So it has changed our game. I think the challenge was we wanted to get to it so fast, but we didn't want to compromise what we had started. So the challenge was learning what we were looking for and how to interpret that data to make it useful for us, instead of just chasing a bunch of numbers and throwing graphs together.
Last off season, I should say last summer, the video of Rondale Moore squatting with 600 pounds went viral. What's in store for him? How's he looking? How's he trying to change his body? And are there any other players so far that have caught your eye, maybe, that have really fallen in or maybe changed their bodies and are pointing toward maybe a big spring in a big 2019?
With Rondale, I think I've said this to others before, but do we anticipate him having 600 pounds on his back again? Probably not. So he's chasing different goals. We know the strength is there. How much stronger do you have to be strong enough? So we feel like he's at a level where we can refine how he's moving, how fast he's moving, how efficient he's moving, and then chase a little bit of mass so he's more durable. He gets battered around quite a bit. He's getting doubled, and he's going to, I think a good story is, late in the season, he was getting a lot of volume when we track the GPS and we track these measurables of how hard he's going, what's his top end speed. So we're seeing late in the year that he's working at a clip that's mind-blowing compared to the other players on the roster. He's also producing at a high rate. In the weight room, we're seeing some signs that, man, this kid's really at his, he's going past what he was in high school. There's extra games involved. So he's struggling a bit to move for us. It takes us a while to get him going. So we go to the coaches and go to Coach Braun and Coach Shep and say, hey guys, these numbers are crazy. We're worried about Rondale doing too much. And then the coaches would look at me and say, what do you want us to do? I said, well, can we protect him a little bit? He's on the first 10 plays of the script. What do you want us to take him out? You can't do that. So we had to find ways to protect him where we could and still make him available. And that involved some special treatment for him and his work in the weight room and on the field. So we anticipate doing a lot more of that, but yet preparing him for an even greater load and a bigger bullseye on his back. Some other guys that have really looked the part, at least started hot in the winter so far. Corey Trice is a big, long, 212-pound safety that has range and runs. He's had a different mindset when he's come in here. Another young guy, Elijah Ball, is very competitive and maybe had a taste of what it would be like to be on the field. And And so those guys that have had a taste are really coming so far in the defensive backfield, those two. Kenny Majors wanting to continue where he started. On the other side of the ball, I think you have some linemen, offensive linemen, that have wide open holes for them to plug in and play. So you've seen a guy like DJ Washington. He got a little banged up, a little tweak early on, but he's aggressive in what he's trying to achieve. He's showing up early, like he always has, but there's a little different something to him that he knows he has a chance. A guy like Jimmy McKenna or Eric Miller, these guys that are seeing their brothers move out of the program, that wide open spots, you see differences in maybe their demeanor. They're not just wide-eyed and as accepting of what's going to happen next. They're looking ahead at what's coming so they can dominate it. It's a process for him, but you can tell that there's something to him.
There's one guy that gets a lot of attention, and he should be a senior in high school. He's in the second semester, but his first semester, Purdue, George Karloftis. So raw. Do you look at a guy like that as a defensive line or defensive end prospect, and everybody talks about how raw he is and the things that he can help him develop from a strength and conditioning standpoint? Is that fun for you? And then secondly, how's he doing?
It is fun for me. He's raw, and what I like about George is at first throughout the process, we're getting to visit with him, and then I was anxious to get to see him work on a platform. How'd you work? How does he handle criticism? How does he handle a setback in the weight room or restrictions? Yeah. Well, 3 weeks in, he's handled it with. He can't wait to get going, first of all, and he does get frustrated when we hold him back, but he understands hard coaching, and he had made gains in terms of how he moves, and his body looks a little different within 3 weeks.
That's what he said.
That's typically what you see within the first 3 weeks is guys struggle the first week to figure out how to move, and then you see him a little differently the third week. So he's coming along. I've been impressed with him. He's very coachable. He is the first guy in, and he spends 5 hours at our facility. I don't know how he does it with his class schedule, but he's there a lot. He's there more than anybody else in the program at this point. So he's started deliberately to be that guy, and 3 weeks in, I haven't seen one difference. Even when he's tired and a little beat up from maybe a workout today, he's going to be in, even though we have open hours at 9 to 12, George is going to be in at 7:45. And say, George, we're open at 9. What do you want to do? He's like, I want to watch film. Okay, well, watch film. I got to get fueled up, So he's got a plan of attack. He's not just aimlessly wandering around the facility. So that's great. That's a really good first impression for him.
Yeah. Hey, real quick, of course, lifting weights, running sprints, physical stuff's important, but diet's huge too.
Yes.
So talk a little bit about how you maybe work with the nutrition staff and nutrition people on making sure, because it's probably more important, it's just as important, making sure what they're putting in their body is the right stuff.
Right, absolutely. I think first of all, when you're tracking meals, you have nutritionists there as a resource in addition to your strength staff at each meal to say, how about a little bit more carbohydrate? How about a little more color to your plate? That comes from a knowledgeable place as opposed to a strength coach just dumping things on your plate. So there's more of a discussion and a dialogue with players at each dinner that they have. The other thing that we're tracking through the nutrition staff is where they using their meal swipes on campus and how much money do they have left over. Are they struggling to gain weight? Are they still 180 pounds as a redshirt freshman, even though their body weight goal as a cornerback is close to 190 or 195? And they're not gaining weight because they can't find anything to eat, but then you check their card and they have $15 left out of the 30 that you would give them each week. Yeah. Well, there's a disconnect, and maybe there isn't as much follow-through on their part that they say, because we're tracking that. So we're tracking their meals, we're tracking how much money that they use, we're tracking everything, and we're tracking if they come in and take their vitamins. You're really going to run me for missing my vitamins. Yeah. Yes, I'm going to run you for something different because you're not taking your vitamins. Little things become big things. That I think we saw it evident. We did some little things right last year, and we had some tremendous success. We did some little things not so right last year and got stoned a couple times, and it was embarrassing. So now the message is little things become big things. So, yeah, your vitamins, every single day, unless you've worked out with the nutritionist that you want to get on an alternate supplement or vitamins and minerals plan, that's going to be a problem for them if they're not following what they need to follow. So it's a detailed plan for sure.
The last, we just have a minute or so here, but the last thing that comes from you is the word love. You got to love those guys just a little bit, and you have to do that. And you also have to get off a bowl game that wasn't the way it should have been.
Right.
How long did it take to get them back to, hey, we're for you, and we got to move forward? And how much of that role do you play and your staff play in saying this is a mental attitude thing too? This is about work.
Yes, right away we love our players. Sometimes that love shows itself in differently. And if we love a player, we're not going to let him get away with the same mistakes that beat him and beat us last year. So it's more confrontational, our love, and it's more direct, and you really have to be transparent. You can't play at this stage the way we set it up. You can't play mind games with them and tell them they're great and then go snipe them to the head coach and say this kid's terrible. No, if we think you're giving terrible effort, if we don't think you're going to produce because you're not eating right and you're going to have a hole in your energy throughout the week, we're going to tell you to your face. We're going to find a way to show your teammates what we think of what you're doing on the field, off the field, in the weight room, at the dinner table. We're going to show your teammates, and we're going to tell the head coach the same thing. So those three ways, there's no mixed messages. You're gonna know what we feel about you, and so is your teammates and head coach.
I can't afford you, but I need you to come to our house like every day and talk to me. No, it's phenomenally interesting, and I know why this program's having success. It's having success. You got a very good head coach, but you've got great people all around, and you're certainly part of it. We thank you for your time today, and we'll do this again. We always enjoy, and it never have enough time to do it as well. But okay, one last thing on schedule now. You've got spring ball starting. What will be your Feb 1 to Feb 25 schedule? How many times of the week are they in, and how does that go?
They lift 5 days a week. And then we are transitioning right now to 2 days of throwing, captain's practices, where the players take themselves through our plays and compete a little bit against each other. The coaches are not around. And then 2 days a week of mat drills, where we have stations, agilities, conditioning, speed work together as in a team setting before the coaches get after them a little bit for individual work like that. So lifting 5 days a week, running 4 days a week, and we expect a high turnout on Saturdays for MMA work, speed school, monster training, whatever. So we're seeing these kids a lot.
Yeah, all right. Well, it will be practice before long, and the Boilermakers will be taking the field the week of February 25th as they get to spring practice in advance of that April 6th spring game. All right. Justin Lovett, thank you so much for your time. Tom Dienhart, we're glad that you're here as well. And Brian Newbert, thank you for being on the show. Walter Jordan, too. And we will be back next week, 2 o'clock start time. Jerry Seasting will be our guest, and we may get another guest or two before then, and look forward to doing that. And will be our February 8th edition of Gold and Black Live. Have a great week, everybody. Thanks again to all the folks at WLFI, Gordon, Chris, and Steve, and Brad, everybody that helps put this show together, and our sponsors as well. Have a great week, and we'll look forward to seeing you next week on Gold and Black Live.